Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel for another pregnancy related video. This video is going to be all about, yes, my 3-word birth plan. I got this idea from a podcast that I've been listening to called the Birthful Podcast with Adriana Losada, and I'll put it in the description box if you guys want to check it out for yourselves. But one of the ladies that she had on her show was talking about how no matter what your birth looks like, you should think about 3 words of how you want your birth to go, whether you have to go in and get induced or if you have to get an emergency C-section. You don't want to look at that as that wasn't a part of my birth plan and now I'm regretting it, or I'm like looking at it as a negative experience because things didn't go how I planned. So basically what she was saying is that you should have 3 words that you want to think about every time you think about your birth. So for me, these are like my 3 words that I think about, and I am trying to think about them in every situation. So if I have to get an emergency C-section, or if I have to get an induction like I had last time, or if I end up going the natural route, which is what I plan on doing, if any of those scenarios happen, I still want to have these 3 words and somehow be related to my birth story. So my 3 words that I thought of for myself: I want my birth story to be joyful. I want my birth, even if I have to have a C-section or something, I still want to be able to find the joy in that. I want to be able to find the joy in an induction, find the joy in a natural birth. Like, I want to have a joyful birth no matter what happens. So that's my number 1 word that I want to happen. And then my second word that I chose was empowering. I want to have an empowering birth. So for me, that is more of along the lines for me as a natural birth, because my body was meant to do this. So I want to feel what my body can do without any sort of intervention. But I also want to be able to think of that word empowering in a C-section scenario, in an induction scenario. You can have an empowering birth no matter how you have it. It's such an amazing experience no matter how you look at it. So I want my birth to be empowering. And then my last word, I want my birth to be beautiful. And I think of this as more of the end of birth. Whenever I see Malachi for the first time, get to hold him, or if it's in a C-section, get to see his face next to mine, or see Hunter holding him. I think it would be beautiful for whenever my baby is born, if it happens naturally, to have him on my chest, or in induction have him on my chest. But also in a C-section, it can be really beautiful to see your husband get to hold your baby before you, like to see them bond. I can definitely see the word beautiful working in any birth scenario. So in short, that is what my birth plan is: joyful, empowering, and beautiful. That's what I want my birth story to be. That's what my birth plan is. But along with that, I do have birth wishes that I do plan on sharing with my OB the next time I go in for my appointment, just to see how they feel about things. I wanted to share with you guys my birth wishes as well, and I wrote them down on a little piece of paper for Hunter too, to take to the hospital just in case he forgets. So these are my birth wishes, and I know that these things may or may not happen. So I'm still trying to just focus on those 3 words that I want my birth story to be about, but I also want to focus on my birth wishes and be able to stand up for myself if the doctor starts suggesting something that I don't want. I need to try to be an advocate for myself, but also try to tell Hunter and my mom. I plan on having her there with me for the birth as well, so having them be my advocates for me to let my birth wishes be known to the hospital staff as well. So my first birth wish is to not have an epidural. I had one last time, and honestly, it was, at the same time that it was amazing, it was also kind of scary, but not in the sense of like a big needle going in your back. Like, that didn't scare me. It didn't really hurt that much, but it just scared me not being able to feel a thing from the waist down. I literally felt like I was paralyzed, and the nurses had to come in and move me on my side every half hour. They had to turn me, and I couldn't move, and like I couldn't feel my toes, couldn't feel my legs, I couldn't feel anything to even push. I was so numbed up that, he put the epidural in too far too, so I had a spinal headache afterwards because I was leaking spinal fluid, but that's a different story. But overall, my birth story with Aria was amazing because I didn't feel anything, which is a different type of amazing. I know it sounds dumb, but I want to be able to feel what it's like to feel the pain of labor. Like, I know it's going to be painful, and I know that I don't know how painful it's going to be, but I want to know what my body can do. So I want to go into this labor naturally, and I want to be able to do that without an epidural. I don't want to have a really bad headache afterwards where I can't remember the first 24 hours with my baby, which is what happened with Aria. Because my headache was so bad, I didn't remember what happened within the first day. I don't remember holding her even that much. I don't want an epidural because I'm afraid it's going to go in too far, but I also want to be able to feel my baby coming it sounds weird too. I want to be able to feel my baby coming out of me because I want to feel like I'm part of the process. I've heard that from a couple people who have had epidurals, that they feel like they weren't really part of the process of birth because they didn't feel anything. I don't know if that could lead to more baby blues afterwards or not. I don't know, maybe it doesn't. But for me, I did have baby blues with Aria, and I do plan on taking some herbal supplements that are supposed to help with your mood postpartum, but I also think that it'll help me if I don't have to get an epidural, so that I can try to avoid feeling like I've not been a part of the process and feel like I can connect more to Malachi, knowing that I felt what it felt like to get him out of me. Because with Aria, I couldn't feel a thing. I was laughing through the pushing phase because yes, it was exhausting, but I was watching the Olympics during it and I couldn't feel a thing. So yes, I don't want to get an epidural again, but if things happen like they happened with Aria's pregnancy and I end up getting induced, I might very well get another epidural depending on how my contractions are coming with the Pitocin. I've never had a natural birth, but I've heard from people that it's a lot different having Pitocin contractions versus having natural contractions that kind of lead up. I don't know. I just heard that they're very different, and a lot of people who get induced end up getting epidurals because of the difference in the contractions and how they feel and how close together they are and how long they are, and how you don't get as much of a break in between them. So if I end up getting induced, I know that it's a very high possibility that I will end up getting an epidural, and I want to let myself know that I'm okay with that. My birth wish is to not have an epidural and to do it naturally. So that was a long story, but hopefully that made sense. Next one goes along with that. I hope to not have any Pitocin. I really don't want any Pitocin because I don't want anything to happen that's not, I just want everything to be as natural as possible, and I really don't want Pitocin because that can really mess up how your contractions work, and I've even heard stories of it slowing down labor instead of picking it up. So I plan on laboring at home as long as possible, which I guess that's a birth wish too, but I didn't write it down. But my wish is to go into labor naturally at home and to labor at home as long as possible. And hopefully at that point, by the time I get to the hospital, I'll be far enough along that they won't need Pitocin. But then again, there's also the possibility of going into the hospital and only being 5 centimeters, 4 centimeters dilated, which would suck. But they might want to do Pitocin, but I really do not want to have any sort of Pitocin or the next one, IV. I don't really want an IV, but if I'm not drinking enough, obviously I would take the IV to keep myself hydrated, but I'm gonna try to keep myself hydrated. I told Hunter to make sure that I'm hydrated enough that I won't need an IV this time. Next one, I want to push in any position that I feel comfortable in, because as of right now, I hate, oh my gosh guys, I hate laying on my back. It hurts so bad. If in the middle of the night I find myself on my back, I just cringe because I know that as soon as I start to roll over, my pelvic bones and my tailbones hurt so bad from laying on my back. I do not want to push on my back. That is not how I want to do it. I don't want to be coached through my pushing. I don't want to get to 10 centimeters and then just automatically start pushing on my back when the doctor tells me to, holding my breath, bearing down for 10 seconds at a time. That's not how I want to do it. Unless I have a situation where I do have an epidural, can't feel anything, and it's easier for the doctors. Since I can't feel anything anyway, I'll probably just lay on my back, which is fine. But if all of my other birth wishes happen the way I'd like them to happen, I want to be able to push in whatever way I want to. And I mean, yeah, being on my back, I hate it, but maybe I would want to do that when I'm in labor. I don't know, but I want to be able to push however I want to push, whether that be hands and knees, standing up, is that a thing? I don't know, but whatever. I want to be able to push in whatever position that I feel most comfortable. If I'm more comfortable with it, I feel like things would happen more easily. And if you think about it, gravity can can work a lot better with you if you're in like a squatting position than if you're laying on your back. I don't know. It just makes more sense to me to push in a different position than laying on your back. And the only other wish that I have written down on here that I think is important for Hunter to know, because at this point I will be exhausted most likely, is delayed cord clamping. I just want them to wait like 10-15 minutes before they do any sort of cord clamping or cutting of the cord, because if it's still like pulsating or whenever it finally turns white, I think that's when they've gotten all the nutrients out of the placenta and it's safe. I mean, it's always safe to cut it, I guess, but I'd rather have them wait till Malachi gets all of the nutrients left in the placenta before they cut it, because it just makes sense. Like, I don't know, just think about it. It just makes sense. So yeah, basically my ideal birth would be go into labor at home, labor as long as I need to at home, and Hunter's parents would take care of Aria while I'm laboring. My mom would come down and like help Hunter kind of figure out when I need to go to the hospital, and then hopefully, if all goes to plan and like this is in my little dream world, I would have labored at home for long enough that when I get to the hospital, I'll only have to be there for a few hours before I'm ready to push and like get him out and meet him. And yeah, so that's what I want to happen. I know that realistically it hardly ever happens the way you want it to happen, so I really don't know what's going to happen. How many times have I said the word happen? That seems really annoying. Anyway, that is my ideal birth. If it doesn't happen that way, yeah, I will be disappointed, but I'm trying to come to terms with it happening a different way, which is hard for me to do, but I'm working on it. In the comments below, let me know if you're planning on going into labor naturally, if you have a planned C-section already, or if you are having an induction or plan on having an induction. Let me know. I'd love to know what you guys are planning. The main takeaway from this is that I hope to have a natural birth. The main things that I'm focusing on, my 3 words for this birth, I want it to be joyful, empowering, and beautiful. I'll see you next time for another one of my videos. Thanks for watching. Keep smiling, keep finding the joy. Thanks, guys. Bye. Oh man. Drop it down low. What your plans are for your birth. She a baby. Ow, ow. That really hurt. Do you want